This is Land of Havilah, Ezra 9. Sometime after Ezra's group arrived in Jerusalem, verse 1. Now when these things were done, the princes came near to me, saying, The people of Israel, the priests and the Levites, have not separated themselves from the peoples of the lands, following their abominations, even those of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they've taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy offspring have mixed themselves with the peoples of the lands. Yes, the hand of the princes and rulers has been chief in this trespass. Comment in verses 1 and 2, princes came to Ezra, meaning leaders. They told him that Israelites had been intermarrying with the surrounding nations, quote, according to their abominations, end quote. It wouldn't be a problem if they were intermarrying with Gurs, which are foreigners who have circumcised themselves to join Israel and to celebrate Passover with them. These are identical to an Israelite, Exodus 12:48 and 49. Rather, they've married foreigners according to their abominations, meaning unreformed foreigners. Yahweh warned Israel in Exodus 34 and Deuteronomy 7 not to marry such foreigners because inevitably the foreign wives and husbands would influence Israel to worship other gods, to practice all sorts of abominations, and Yahweh would quickly expel them from the land. So intermarriage equals expulsion from the land. They just returned to the land by Yahweh's grace, and now they're about to get themselves expelled again. In verse 2, the princes and rulers have been chief in this trespass. The leaders have been the worst ones, including priests and Levites in verse 1. Verse 3, When I heard this thing, I tore my garment and my robe, and pulled the hair out of my head and of my beard, and sat down confounded. Then everyone who trembled at the words of the God of Israel were assembled to me because of their trespass of the captivity, and I sat confounded until the evening offering. Comment in verses 3 and 4, Ezra must have sat down in a public place because an assembly gathered around him. In fact, we'll find out in the next chapter that this was in the courtyard of the temple. Verse 5. At the evening offering I arose up from my humiliation, even with my garment and my robe torn, and I fell on my knees and spread out my hands to Yahweh my God. And I said, comment, the rest of the chapter will be Ezra's prayer to Yahweh with an assembly around him, a very great assembly of men, women, and children, Ezra 10:1. They saw the great Ezra sitting on the ground with his clothes torn, hair pulled out, beard pulled out, in distress, and it got their attention. By the time he finishes praying, the crowd will be weeping bitterly, Ezra 10:1. This was his prayer, still in verse 6. My God, I am ashamed and blush to lift up my face to you, my God, for our iniquities have increased over our head, and our guiltiness has grown up to the heavens. Since the days of our fathers we've been exceedingly guilty to this day, and for our iniquities we, our kings, and our priests have been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, to plunder, and to confusion of face, as it is this day. Comment, as Ezra spoke, Israel was to that day exceedingly guilty. God delivered them into the hand of a foreign king who took them captive, then to a king who returned them to the land, but they're still in the hand of a foreign king. Verse 8. Now for a little moment grace has been shown from Yahweh our God, to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a nail in his holy place, that our God may lighten our eyes, and revived us a little in our bondage. Comment, nails also translated tent peg. A tent peg secures a tent in place, just as Yahweh has secured a remnant of Israel in the land for the time being. This has revived their spirits and put a little sparkle in their eyes, even during their bondage to the foreign king. Verse 9. For we are bondservants, yet our God has not forsaken us in our bondage, but has extended loving kindness to us in the sight of the kings of Persia to revive us, and to set up the house of God, and to repair its ruins, and to give us a wall in Judah and Jerusalem. Comment, this doesn't mean they have an actual wall yet, because he said a wall in Judah and Jerusalem. There's certainly no wall around Judah. But there is a wall in a poetic sense because Yahweh made them fairly secure. He's given them a little relief for the time being. Verse 10. Now, our God, what shall we say after this? For we've forsaken your commandments, which you've commanded by your servants the prophets, saying, The land to which you go to possess it is an unclean land through the uncleanness of the peoples of the lands, through their abominations, which have filled it from one end to another with their filthiness. Now therefore don't give your daughters to their sons, don't take their daughters to your sons, nor seek their peace or their prosperity forever, that you may be strong and eat the good of the land, and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. Comment, he's quoting or paraphrasing from Yahweh in the law of Moses that during Moses' time and still today the people of the land were unclean, practicing abominations. Therefore Yahweh would expel those nations in favor of the Israelites. Don't intermarry with them, God said, or inevitably you'll act like them and I'll expel you also. Keep yourselves separate from them and I won't cast you out, so that you'll be able to pass the land to your descendants indefinitely. Exodus 34:14, Leviticus 18:28, and Deuteronomy 7:1-4. Verse 13. After all that has come on us for our evil deeds and for our great guilt, since you, our God, have punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and have given us such a remnant, shall we again break your commandments and join ourselves with the peoples that do these abominations? Wouldn't you be angry with us until you had consumed us, so that there would be no remnant nor any to escape? Comment, Ezra knows Yahweh's been very tolerant and patient with Israel, and doesn't see how his patience could last much longer. After all the kindness he's shown them by returning them to the land, it's inexcusable they're still practicing the same things that got them expelled in the first place. It must make Yahweh doubly angry with them. Verse 15. Yahweh, the God of Israel, you are righteous, for we are left a remnant that has escaped as it is today. Behold, we are before you in our guiltiness, for no one can stand before you because of this. Comment, when Adam and Eve sinned, they tried to hide from God, but Ezra knows there's no hiding, quote, we are before you in our guiltiness, end quote. He knows this is a crisis because it's impossible for guilty men to stand before God, quote. No one can stand before you because of this, end quote. Ezra 10 is next.